In the sweeping plains and desert winds of the Kalahari, there lies a nation whose independent story stands apart from much of Africa's turbulent past. While many countries gained freedom through war, bloodshed, or political conflict, Botswana followed a different path, one guided by wisdom, diplomacy, and unity. This is the story of how Botswana became one of Africa's greatest success stories. For decades, the land known as the Bechuanaland Protectorate existed under British protection. But unlike most colonies, it was never intensively ruled. It had no rich mines, no major ports, just vast land, proud tribes, and a quiet determination to preserve autonomy. Among these tribes stood the Bangwato people, led by a young and charismatic prince, Seretse Khama, a man whose personal story would shape the destiny of an entire nation. In the 1940s, Seretse left for Britain to study law. There, he fell in love with a white woman, Ruth Williams. Their interracial marriage scandalized both the British government and South African authorities, who feared it would undermine apartheid ideology. Under pressure, the British exiled Seretse from his homeland. But the people of Bechuanaland refused to accept this injustice. They stood firmly behind their prince, making it clear that his leadership was central to their identity. After years of political debate and international pressure, Seretse Khama was finally allowed to return, not as a prince, but as a political leader who would help guide his nation toward independence. By the late 1950s and early 1960s, the winds of African liberation were blowing. Botswana's leaders saw that freedom was inevitable, but unlike many liberation movements, they focused on dialogue rather than revolt. They built political institutions, negotiated calmly with Britain, and prepared the country for self-governance. Their goal was simple: independence without chaos. On September 30th, 1966, Botswana officially became a free nation, and Seretse Khama became its first president. Few expected much from the new country. Botswana was one of the poorest nations in the world at independence. It had only 12 kilometers of paved road, minimal infrastructure, and a tiny educated population. But the new government had something far more valuable: stability, integrity, and long-term vision. Soon after independence, Botswana discovered diamonds, a moment that could have led to corruption or conflict. Instead, Seretse Khama and his government used the wealth wisely, reinvesting in education, healthcare, and infrastructure. They created strong democratic institutions and protected the rule of law. While civil wars erupted in nearby countries and dictators rose across the continent, Botswana quietly charted its own path, a path of peace. Today, Botswana is known as one of Africa's most stable democracies, one of the continent's least corrupt nations, and a shining example of what visionary leadership can achieve. From the sands of the Kalahari rose a nation built not by war, but by wisdom. Not by revolution, but by unity. Not by force, but by peace. Botswana's independence remains one of Africa's greatest stories, quiet but powerful. Like, comment, and share to support African storytelling.